I'm just going to start this podcast with what's on my heart because if there's anything I've learned these last few weeks as we've been in the eclipse portal, it's that speaking from here, speaking from my heart is the only place I want to speak. And when I tap into it, I could cry. So I'm just getting a little emotional right now. I want this podcast to be a place of truth and to serve as a permission slip and a piece of inspiration. And I never want you to think that I have everything all figured out, but I do want you to be seen. I want you to feel seen, and I want you to know what's possible for you. That you're not doomed to being stuck. That if you had certain things happen when you were younger, you were born a certain way, maybe you feel like you're socially awkward and maybe you feel like you're autistic or something. I say that because my boyfriend jokes that I'm autistic all the time, and I wouldn't be surprised if I was because I've never been diagnosed. I also don't believe in labels. I believe we all live on a spectrum, but I've told this story on my podcast before. I didn't talk really until I was in high school. I didn't really know how to connect with people. And up until now, these last few weeks, I've realized I have still had some masking that I put on me. That yes, I've gained a lot more confidence over my life and I take really big risks. But part of me has been masking myself to perform, to get validation. And it's directly related to this Pisces Virgo eclipse because the last eclipse cycle was in Aries and Libra. That's our awareness consciousness, awareness of us versus other. The Pisces Virgo axis is the embodiment of you versus other. It is the energy you've learned to embody because of your wounds, because of what you think you need to behave like to be perceived as perfect, based on society, based on your family, based on things you've subconsciously picked up through the news, through movies, through marketing. And, we're constantly being shaped and bombarded by information. That's what shapes our subconscious, and that's what Pisces rules. And at this eclipse, the sun is shining a light on that subconscious. All of these energies we've embodied into our being, all of these energies that shape us and then make us behave a certain way in our day-to-day. That's Virgo. Virgo is how then energy that's influenced us molds us and then impacts how we show up in our day-to-day. And then it impacts how people respond to us because we're showing up a certain way in our day-to-day. And so back to my story, I learned certain societal constructs for what it means to be social. And what it means to be social is to talk and to carry the conversation and to ask people a lot of questions. And I learned this when I was younger from my mom because I didn't have many friends, but I did have a couple friends. And I remember there was this point where the couple friends I did have didn't want to spend time with me anymore. And they said it's because all I wanted to do was play video games and they wanted to go out and play and be loud and do all these different things. And I was a very different kid. And so I remember my mom sitting me down and saying, Rachel, this is how you make people like you. And I'll never forget that conversation because I absorbed it deeply into my being as if you want to be successful in this world, if you want to survive, you have to put on this mask and be social. So I observed people and I knew exactly how to be social. I knew how to make people feel safe. I knew how to be open with people. I even used to describe to people what I would do. Like, when you're at a dog park and a big dog will roll on its back in order to allow the little dogs to feel safe to play with it. I use that as an example of what I would do in conversation. I would purposefully make myself seem vulnerable or make myself seem weak in order to make the other person feel safe. I knew how to make people feel safe. I knew how to carry a conversation. Yet I wondered why every time I'm in around people, I get this extreme tightness in my chest, extreme tightness in my throat. And I wondered why I could appear and know how to act so confident, but not feel confident. And this is something a lot of people might be reckoning with right now, is you don't feel like things in your life are you, but you don't exactly know how to be you because you're shaped to be this other way. Just like for me, I was shaped to be fake confident, not by my mom. Well, I mean, a little bit by me observing. And then I wondered why I felt tight, why I didn't feel safe to be me around anyone, even though I knew how to make people feel safe to be themselves around me. At least that was a story I told myself. So these last couple of weeks, anxiety for me on high fucking alert. And luckily for me, I know astrology, and I knew that this upcoming Virgo eclipse was directly on my Lilith in Pisces, which is my exact wound that I have around being overlooked, around being misunderstood, around not being seen for my gifts and my depth of wisdom and my intuition and who I truly am, not being seen for just being me. And that was that wound when my mom told me, if you don't want people to leave you, you have to be someone else. Right there, that taught me you cannot be seen as you. It is so fucking unsafe. People will leave you. And so I've been sitting with that. That's why I didn't release my podcast episode last week. I really wanted to sit with why I'm expressing myself when I express myself. Am I expressing myself because I want validation and I want to prove that I'm wise and I know things? Am I expressing myself a certain way because I'm deeply afraid of being misunderstood in that moment? So I repeat my same point again and again and again to make sure people understand me. Am I that's what I've been doing. So what I came to was I've always known what my authentic voice is and my authentic self-expression is. And my authentic voice and authentic self-expression has a lot less to say than most people, or it's not constantly talking. It only has things to say when it has things to say. Yet because I made that a wrong thing, I fill in space and I overtalk and I over-explain. And so this past week, I faced my deepest fears. I reminded myself in every conversation I had that my power is my presence. I showed up to my calls and I only talked to the extent that I had something to say, and then I stopped. And I allowed the silence to get as awkward as possible for me and for them. And I held to not filling the space. And you want to know what happened? My throat chakra was going like this. It was convulsing. It was like, it's even doing it right now. It was like, this is not safe. You're not making them feel safe. You're not feeling safe because you're not making them feel safe. That was the voice going on in my head. It was freaking out. But I kept breathing. And returning. Returning back to presence. I'm getting to my point for this eclipse because we have an awakening aspect at this eclipse. the one major aspect we have going on is we have Uranus in Taurus aspecting the moon in Virgo at the eclipse. Uranus in Taurus awakens us to our higher self. It awakens us to authenticity. It awakens us to truth. And when it's in Taurus, it wants to awaken you to your nature, to the present moment. It wants to awaken you to your senses and to trust that what your body is feeling is telling you something and you don't need to bypass it. And so in conversation before, when I'd get anxious and I felt like I needed to talk to still fill the space, in that moment, my body didn't need me to be more, because the highest expression of Taurus is just being. It's worthy because it's being. That's why Taurus is the slow, earth, present, sensual earth sign, and it's about self-worth. It is about you're worthy just to be. You don't have to prove anything. But what happens is when we're shaped by society and our upbringing and conditioning and all of these subconscious ways we're shaped to not be ourselves, but to see what is actual perfection. And we're told we have to act this way. For me, I was told you have to be this way if you want to be liked by people. Maybe for you, you were told you have to be responsible and make sure everyone's okay so that you can feel safe. Maybe you were told I have to stuff my truth to keep the peace, because if I don't keep the peace and I speak my truth, I could be exiled, I could be abandoned, I could lose love. There's something that's been programmed into your subconscious that is impacting your energy, and it's impacting how you show up in micro, detailed ways throughout the day. And it's blocking you from living in alignment with your soul's truth, with magic, with the limitless possibilities that are available to you when you are truly you, when you are authentically connected to the present moment, when you're authentically connected to your beingness, when you are authentically connected to the senses in your body and you don't allow them to push you to overextend yourself, but instead you breathe into them. You allow them to be there. You allow them to give you information. Because you want to know what happened to me this last week when I practiced sitting in awkward silences and not filling the space. And I breathed into my body instead. I had much more deeply embodied, grounded insights for my clients. We had much deeper, more impactful conversations. I felt more grounded and embodied, even though it was fucking terrifying for me. And that's what these Pisces Virgo eclipses are pulling out of you. They're wanting you to stop needing to show up as perfect, Virgo. Stop being so critical of yourself and editing yourself and needing to show up a certain way, needing to word how you say things a certain way. It's not about how you word things. It's not about you showing up perfect. That's what this Virgo eclipse is trying to bust you out of. It's about you owning what is true and authentic in the present moment, you owning what you're feeling right now. And if you have nothing to say, you say nothing, even if it creates awkwardness. If you're feeling anxious as fuck, maybe you say it, even if it creates awkwardness. Because you are learning that there is value in your authenticity. That's the Uranus and Taurus wind opportunity at this eclipse. Again, Taurus is values. Uranus is authenticity. We are learning there is value in your presence, value in your authenticity, value in your being. There is more value in you being and staring at someone and being present than any fucking thing you have to say. Virgo is how we communicate. Virgo edits. Virgo wants to make things perfect. Virgo thinks that if it just changes this and changes that and changes this, Virgo's in the lower expression, Virgo's not even looking at the energetics. It's literally just looking at the moving, logical, earthly pieces. We're too far into Virgo right now. We've gotten too far into the how, too far into the logic, too far into the perfectionism. It's not about what you have to say anymore. There is a mass awakening that's been happening. The earth has been rising to the heart chakra consciousness. People can feel things now. They want to feel your heart in it. And when we're acting from the mind, Virgo, and we're being a perfectionist and editing our life through tinkering and just doing things logically or just doing things on the earthly realm without addressing the energy behind it, the fear behind it, why are you needing to edit and show up perfectly? Why are you over talking? Why are you not speaking up when you have something to say and you don't agree with someone? It's because we have a fear of being misunderstood, a fear of being overlooked, a fear that we need to put on a mask and show people I am perfect in order for me to find success, in order for me to be loved. But really, we're moving into an age where that doesn't work anymore. People want to feel you. And the only way to get to authenticity and to embody your true magnetism is to go through that Pisces fear, realize why you're making yourself act perfect, and consciously shed it, consciously create the awkward silences like I did. Consciously connect to your body and allow for awkwardness and put yourself first, put how you're feeling first. I was just in an introduction call for a leadership program. We're all facilitators in this leadership program, and it was like a networking call for all the facilitators. And I was 8th in line to introduce myself, or I don't know, I was somewhere down the line toward the end. I hate being at the end to introduce myself because my anxiety is building every person who talks. I'm the person who usually likes to go first because then my anxiety didn't have time to build. And because speaking and formulating my deep thoughts into something that I actually have to say is very scary for me and new for me in this lifetime. I told you in the beginning of this podcast, I didn't talk most of my life. So me talking and communicating is new for me. My North Node, which is a new area for you in this lifetime, is in the 3rd house of communication. Speaking out loud is new for me in this lifetime. I'm used to just being a deep thinker, embodying wisdom, thinking, deeply embodying it, ingraining it. I'm not used to speaking. And so when it came time to share, I was so nervous. And I was telling everyone what I did, and I realized in the very beginning, I have to tell everyone I'm nervous right now because if I don't, if I hide this truth, this nervousness, I am going to feel like I'm going to want to vomit. My throat's just going to get tighter the whole time I talk. And so I spoke it. I said, I teach people truth. And I said, and my truth right now is I'm really nervous. And I said, I wish I went first. And I like let it out. And then I felt grounded and I could actually tell people what I did. But if I didn't address that truth, that thing that was building fear in me, that thing where I want people to know that I'm a human and waiting to go 8th makes me really nervous. If I didn't do it and then say it out loud and allow that emotion to move through me, even though it was very scary for me, I wouldn't have come to that grounded place of then being able to talk about what I do because I would have been hiding a truth. What happens is when we hide who we really are, Pisces, in order to seem perfect, Virgo, we do the opposite of what we want. We think it's going to give us success. We think it's going to give us power. We think it's going to give us long-term inner stability, confidence, and that inner foundation that we're looking for. But really what it does is it affirms, see, this is why you can't be you and you have to be perfect. And so there is an ask at this full moon. Be willing to be imperfect in order to heal yourself, in order to come into safety with who you really are. And it might require you to do things that are scary, that are embarrassing, that could cause a massive argument that you don't want to be a part of. But that is the portal that's available to you. And here's the thing, the more intense in my experience of a portal, the more scary something is. When you go into it and you face it and you allow yourself to do it and you hold yourself through it, and then you do it again and again and again, you're opening yourself up to finally getting validated for who you truly are. Want to know what happened to me last week as I was creating these awkward silences with all of my clients? Is a lot of them would end up eventually talking and carrying the conversation and asking me questions. And then we'd go into deeper layers of their birth chart in the conversation and unlock even bigger things. If I didn't allow that to happen by being willing to make it awkward and allowing that space, I would have never been shown that it is safe to create that space, that it's safe to shut up when I have nothing else to say, that it's safe to allow people to rise to meet me. And you want to know another thing that happens is as I've been doing practices like this, because this is just one example, this has been partly how I've transformed so many layers of my life, is through going into truth, going into the darkness, going into the unknown. It's why I talk about truth in so many of my podcasts, because it's everything. It is your greatest liberator. It is your greatest teacher. It is everything, everything, everything. It is your truth. You know, it's the scariest thing in the fucking world, but also where all of your power is on the other side. Because here's the thing. Now that I'm okay with silence, or I'm learning to be okay with silence, I can talk to anyone. Now that I'm learning to be okay to telling people exactly how I feel, I can feel however I want around anyone. We only sabotage ourselves when we consciously and consistently hide the truth from ourselves. We only project an energy that's not super magnetic to people and doesn't get us what we want, and you're not completely connected to ourselves. Truth is the longest lasting form of success. Because here's the other thing. There are people who are successful who are not in truth, but they don't last. Truth lasts. And there's many things about this Virgo eclipse that are wanting you to shed perfectionism, shed what's not truly you, so that you can align with an energy, with an anchoring point in your authenticity that creates something that lasts, something that's authentic, something that humanity needs over these next 20 years of Pluto and Aquarius. Pluto and Aquarius is bringing the death and rebirth of the old way of doing. We are completely dismantling old structures. That's what Aquarius does. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. Saturn builds structures, but what Aquarius, the Aquarius version of Saturn, it breaks down old structures in order to rebel and build towards the new. And in order to build towards the new, we need authenticity. We need the real ones. We need the people who are willing to look like freaks, the people who are willing to say the things that are terrifying, the people who are willing to just be so radical in their authenticity. They're not afraid to say it, because those are the only things that are going to move us forward. And the two things happening at this Virgo eclipse, we have Saturn. So Saturn, I just told you, it builds long-term structures. Saturn's with the sun at this Virgo eclipse. And the sun that's illuminating your self-sabotaging behavior, the sun that's illuminating where you learned that you could not be yourself because you have these fears you project onto the world. Saturn's helping you put boundaries around that shit so you can cut off those energy leaks. Stop leaking your energy. You leak your energy when you try to be something other than who you truly are. Because Saturn wants to build long term. It wants to connect you with your new day to day. And then Uranus and Taurus. Taurus is also about the long term. Uranus, that's awakening us to your authenticity. It's because it also wants something long term to be birthed out of this. If you're going through a portal right now and it feels scary, it feels like you're facing some of your biggest fears, it feels like you're taking this mask off and people don't even know this version of you, and you don't even know what's going to happen if you step out tomorrow as this version of you. You will be rewarded for being that version of you. That is you flowing with the energetic flow of this eclipse, flowing with the cosmos. Saturn always rewards in the long term because Saturn work is not easy. It's not easy to face your biggest fears and to stop leaking your energy and to go against everything you've been trained to be in order to be authentic, or in order to just release everything that's not yours so you can figure out what's authentic. For some people, you're going to be shedding jobs that feel terrifying for you to shed. For others, you're going to be shedding relationships that feel terrifying for you to shed. For others, you're going to be shedding behaviors and social ways of being that are going to feel terrifying for you to shed. And Saturn will give you the karmic rewards. Something that's really interesting at this eclipse is Venus is retrograde in Aries. So we are reflecting on ourselves. Aries is ourselves. It is your identity. And Venus is your self-worth, how you go about receiving, your standards, your values, the worth you hold yourself at. When you hold yourself at your truth, that's you holding yourself in your highest worth, your highest beingness, because truth is beingness. And so when you are in your highest truth, you open yourself up to the most abundance and ability to receive. But here's the thing with Venus is when you don't think you're worthy to be in your truth and you lower your standards to meet life, you contort yourself to meet life so that you can be perfect and live the perfect day to day and look badass or whatever story you tell yourself. I told myself many stories. We're reflecting on those things right now. Venus is saying, is this really the life you want to receive? Is this really your way of being in relationship? Is this really the way you want to be in relationship with the world? Because the level at which you allow yourself to be you is the level at which you're allowing the universe to meet you, and you're going to get to receive from it. And one final thing I want to talk about at this eclipse is Mars in Cancer is trining Saturn in the sun in Pisces. This is giving you energy of being able to tap into why you take certain actions from certain emotional states. So for example, I use this a lot because this is how I have been able to heal a lot of my money wounds. So I like to use it as an example. If getting a bill usually causes this big scarcity emotional reaction in you, just like for me, getting awkward silence made me want to fill the space, right? Mars in Cancer, it's highlighting how we take action from certain emotions. So let's say you got a bill, it terrifies you, then it springs you into working harder, Virgo, because Virgo in the lower expression will slave itself away. It thinks more is more. Really, we're learning these next 2 years that it's not more is more, your energy. Alignment is more. Anyways, so what's happening is because Mars is making a direct link to the sun, which is highlighting your self-sabotaging behavior, it's showing you if you take action from that scarcity feeling, is that really getting you what you want? Because with the North Node in Pisces, we are learning that the place you take action from, the place you speak from, the place you do anything from is what you get back. Which is why if I race to fill the space out of anxiety, I get a closed off, anxious experience back. But if instead I allow the space and I stay present and I focus on how I feel and giving my body true emotional safety, true emotional fulfillment, not a false sense of emotional safety. A false sense of emotional safety would be get the bill, react scarcely, do everything I can to make the money. That's a false sense of safety, but it's an old way you might have learned to build safety. It was an old way I learned to build safety was to react to the scarcity. The way I, for example, have healed a lot of money things is I stopped reacting to that scarcity. And instead I started giving the scarcity what it needs which was reminding myself of my value, which was getting calm, which was getting into my body and clearing the energy out, and then getting back into a present, worthy state. And when I learned to give myself emotional safety from inside as opposed to needing to control outside of me to make it better, that's when I started making more money, and my income just has gone up and up the more I've done it. That's another opportunity you have this eclipse. Notice where you react emotionally to things, and it's coming from an upregulated state. And ask yourself, what does this feeling really need right now? What does this feeling really need to know? How can I make myself feel safe first and get myself into presence, into my worth, into my values, and allow enough trust in my beingness, the worthiness of my beingness, that is going to give me my next best step, that I will be taken care of as long as I come back to my worth and my value. It requires going into the unknown. That's the North Node in Pisces. We're being pushed into the unknown these next 18 months, but it's in the unknown that you find your power. It's in the unknown that you unlock your magic, and it's in the unknown that you unlock your gifts. Pisces is where all of your gifts lie. Every time you stop reacting to a situation from a lower vibe emotion because you want to control your external reality, every time you come back into presence and you're able to nurture yourself from within and then allow that to guide you forward, is every time you unlock a spiritual gift that's been hidden to you your whole life. That's why Pisces is the sign of our hidden gifts as much as it's the sign of our self-sabotaging behaviors. So that's the opportunity you have at this eclipse. I'm really excited to hear how this shows up for you guys. If you would like support at this eclipse, I don't take many readings these days. I only have a few days that I take readings now a week. So you can book a reading below. I do have one spot open for one-on-one coaching. The requirements are you had to have gotten a reading with me before in order to apply for one-on-one coaching. So if you want to explore coaching with me using the stars to unravel these deep layers, because that's what I'm the best at. I'm the best at helping you get to those deeper layers of yourself, the things that keep you in the patterns, the things that are super raw. I just had a client who she's had this pattern her whole life. And in the last 5 months, we've completely removed it from her body. She said to me the other day, wow, it's weird to even look at myself that way anymore because that seems like lifetimes ago, but it was literally 5 months ago. I bring you using these principles into the type of healing where you get that deep and profound embodied body level healing that you normally get in 10, 15 years in like a 5-6 month span. It's because we do a lot of the things I talk about here. So if you want to apply the applications down in the show notes as well, and I will see you guys on the next episode.